Welcome to Build Your Business Radio, total know-how for small business, with your host, Barbara Weltman.
As a small business owner, I often feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick from Washington. The banks, auto companies, and other too-large-to-fail industries are getting help, but we, the innovators and job creators, are not. Here today to fill us in on what's going on in Washington is Congressman Sam Graves from Missouri. He's the ranking member of the Small Business Committee in the House, and he also serves on committees for agriculture and transportation. I'm so honored to have him join me today at this very important time. Welcome, Congressman Graves.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara.
Well, Congressman Graves, taxes are a chief interest and concern of mine. Should small business owners be worried about President Obama's tax proposals?
Well, yes, they actually should be deeply concerned about the proposed tax increases that President Obama would like to implement. First, he wants to increase the marginal rate structure, and many businesses file their taxes as individuals. So those tax increases that are supposedly just going to folks making over $250,000 for a couple or $200,000 for an individual, they're going to see their taxes go up because they do file as individuals or couples. Every additional tax dollar that's given to the government is just another dollar loss to reinvestment in their business or in job creation. The second thing is President Obama is supporting this national energy tax that is being debated in Congress now. It's called the Waxman-Markey energy legislation. It's a tax piece, and it's a bad idea for small businesses. The bottom line is, in fact, Chairman Waxman and Markey, the two supporters of the bill, have even admitted that their legislation would have enough of a cost on small businesses that they think that they will require assistance from the federal government. And then the last thing is that the president would also like to reinstate the death tax, which discourages businesses from investing in. And basically, that's just a redistribution of wealth. Death should not be a taxable event. And they're trying to make it that.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any way we're going to avoid probably having some sort of death tax, but certainly the other 2 points that you make, are really of concern. Now, is the Waxman-Markey bill that you refer to, is that part of the cap and trade proposal?
That's what it is. It's the cap and trade proposal, and it's basically just an energy tax. That's what it is. It's going to affect everybody. If you think about it, in this country right now, and particularly if you're a small business, it's going to increase the cost of your electricity, the cost of your heating. It's going to increase dramatically the cost of transportation. Whether you're moving your product from one place to another, or you're moving your inputs from one place to another, you name it, it's going to increase all of our costs dramatically to consumers, to small business owners, to big business. It doesn't matter, but it's going to hit small business particularly hard, and even more so in a lot of the rural areas out there, which have even farther to go to get to those centers of commerce.
And certainly, if small businesses hit with this tax, they're going to have to pass it on to the consumer. So it's really ultimately this consumer's going to pay even more.
That's right, and that's who's going to, and the consumer's going to get it on both sides. They're going to have to pay even more for their goods and services, and then they're going to pay when it comes to the energy they use in their home, whether it's lights or heating, whatever the case may be. But they're going to pay a lot more for it.
Now, on the Small Business Committee, as you discuss these matters, are there alternative proposals to this, or is it just a discussion on the impact on small business? How is the committee involved in this issue?
Well, the majority of it focuses around, or what I'm trying to focus it on is, what the impact is going to be to small business. How it's going to hit small business, how it's going to hit consumers. As far as alternatives, I don't think there needs to be an alternative on taxing us when it comes to energy use. It's just another tax. And the fact of the matter is, Washington has a spending problem. It doesn't have a revenue problem or a tax problem. It has a spending problem. And the deficit has been tripled in the first 100 days of this administration. And, they're looking for ways to pay for this. And one of the ways they're wanting to do that is through this energy tax, which is going to impact everyone.
It seems awfully sneaky that to sort of put a label on it that this is, a guise to help the economy, to help the environment, or something like that, when it's actually just a bald revenue measure.
Well, and we're all, wanting to take care of our environment. It would be foolish for anybody out there to want to destroy our environment. But we need to use a little bit of common sense, too. Alternative fuels, that's something that we need to be looking at, investing in, and finding those alternative energies and those new ideas. But the fact of the matter is, right now, we are a nation that uses a lot of fuel and a lot of energy. And, what we need to be thinking about, instead of just eliminating coal, let's find cleaner ways to burn it. And that's one of the things that's taking place right now. Instead of banning nuclear power, let's embrace nuclear power. Let's use nuclear power. Those are the interesting thing about it is there's no provision in there right now in for instance, for nuclear there's nothing in there to advance it. They just shut it out and say we're not going to use it anymore, but which is just crazy. When it comes to
absolutely.
When it comes,
it seems so odd that that I know I just heard recently that there's some kind of deal to help the United Arab Emirates acquire nuclear technology for power, and we're not using it.
Well, and many countries out there use it, exclusively or to provide the majority of their power, and in the United States, we don't, and that's sad. And if you want to know just how safe nuclear power is, all you have to do is look at our own United States Navy. All of our carriers are nuclear powered. All of our subs are nuclear powered, and they do a fantastic job. It's very safe. We don't have accidents. We have nuclear power plants in the United States, and there hasn't been any problem in decades. In fact, I have one in my backyard on the Missouri River, practically in my backyard. It's OPPD, Omaha Public Power, which provides power to the north of us in Nebraska, but they're great neighbors.
Yeah, I kind of don't get that myself, because I also live not too far from a plant I regularly hear the sirens being tested, and really no concerns here. Can I go back to the question of taxes, because again, this is something that I have some expertise in, and I'm certainly concerned about it. Especially because I certainly will be impacted. But I'm more concerned about the whole issue of the complexity of the whole tax code and its impact, the burden for just the record keeping and the compliance issues and all of this that comes down on small business. And I know this is one of the issues that your committee has identified, and I know you're following. Could you comment on this?
Well, our tax code is extraordinarily complex. And the fact that you have to hire somebody to find your way through the tax code, is a sad, comment on it, to be quite honest with you. And it's just going to get worse. You start piling up all of these new taxes that the administration is talking about, that Speaker Pelosi is talking about. It's going to make it so much more worse, and it doesn't have to be that way. I've been working for years trying to simplify our tax code and come up with some alternatives, but they seem to get shut down at every turn. And what worries me as much as anything else, particularly with this administration now, though, if we did come up with an alternative, is having a little bit of both, never really getting rid of the income tax, coming up with an alternative and having a hybrid of both, and that scares me too. But when you are facing a $1.8 trillion deficit like we are right now, we've never had much more than $490 billion in deficit spending in any one year. And then President Obama got elected, and in his first 100 days, he tripled that. And now we're looking at a $1.8 trillion deficit. That's money over and above what the government's going to take in. The only way they can pay for that is to increase taxes. And so they're going to want that tax code just as complex as they can get it.
That's a really scary proposition. On the one hand, thinking about the size of the deficit and thinking about my children and grandchildren having to pay for that and be burdened with that, and on the other hand, just now having to deal with the complexity myself. And another aspect of this, which is really troubling, is the fact that the rules make it so hard to hire employees. You have so much responsibility and burden becoming an employer. So even, right now we want to create jobs. We're thinking about ways to stimulate businesses to create jobs, and yet the burden on an employer is so great that, you don't want to do it.
And that's what's sad is, we're going in the wrong direction. What's happening now is the government is creating a climate where it's harder and harder just to do business in the United States. And, it's the government that is driving business out of this country. It's through regulation. It's through all the taxation. We have the highest or second highest corporate tax rate in the world in the United States. And then it's the litigation. It's allowing these open-ended lawsuits, these frivolous lawsuits that continue to cause small business, to spend a lot of money just trying to get out of something that they didn't do or some ridiculous lawsuit. So it's litigation, it's regulation, and taxation. That's what's driving people out of business. A lot of people are just, taking the idea that it's easier not to do it.
Well, we're coming up to a break, Congressman, so I don't want to take another question, but I want to tell people they can find more about the Small Business Committee at republicans.smallbiz.house.gov. And when we come back, we're going to pick up our conversation about small business with Congressman Sam Graves. Stay with me. I'll be right back.
Welcome to Build Your Business Radio, total know-how for small business, with your host, Barbara Weltman.
Thanks for staying with me. We're talking now with Congressman Sam Graves. He's the ranking member of the Small Business Committee in the House. And we're talking about some of the key issues that are being talked about in Washington today that are going to have a dramatic impact on small business, on your business. And you need to know about this, and you need to speak up about many of these things. Welcome back, Congressman.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted, before we get started, I want to point out to my listeners that there's a really great website that they can go to find out a lot about these issues and figure out how to get involved if they're concerned about some of these issues, about big government and finding solutions for small business. The site is showmesmallbusiness.com, and I suggest that you all take a look at it. There's some great information there. Before the break, we were talking about some of the issues, and you started to talk about liability reform, the concern that many small businesses fall prey to litigation, and many of the suits are even frivolous, but they have to bear the cost of the whole process, and it's a tremendous burden to small business. What do you think could be done about this?
Well, we need a lot of tort reform in the United States and really across the board. And for a long time, we were, getting there in bits and pieces, just little bits at a time. But then when Speaker Pelosi took over the House and now with the new administration, I fear we're going to go backwards again. Tort reform is something that it's just terribly needed. These frivolous lawsuits drive a lot of businesses, just completely out. And kind of what was mentioned earlier, in many cases, it's just easier just not to do business in the United States, and those are the jobs that we really need. All these job creators out there, these small businesses with a few employees, that's where the majority of job creation comes from, and when you just make it that much tougher on a business, sometimes it's easier just not to mess with it.
Yeah, I hope that we can find some solution. As an attorney, I definitely support tort reform. I would like to know more about what you're hearing, like from small business owners in your district, about the direction that we're going in terms of administration policy and some of the solutions that are being offered and talked about. What's your take on what's going on now?
Well, people out there are concerned. They really are. They don't believe that small business owners are being taken care of. They're not satisfied with the president, what he's doing, and they don't believe he understands what they need. And I personally don't believe he understands what they need. And all you have to do is take a look, for instance, at the stimulus package. The president announced earlier this year that the SBA would receive funds for SBA loan programs and loan fee reductions, but he didn't really check how many small business owners actually apply for SBA loans. As it turns out, 90% of the small business owners out there have never had an SBA loan. So, and I told the president when he was working on this, I said, that's great, Mr. President, for those few businesses that do use the SBA, but you're giving on one hand, and then you're turning around and you're taking away on the other with these increased taxes, whether it's an energy tax or increasing the marginal rates or increasing the corporate tax, whatever the case may be. You're continuing to take away, and I don't think, and all my constituents don't think, that he really cares or has really factored that in at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if he doesn't care, but I certainly don't think he gets it. He's never run a business. You've run a business. I run a business, and I think you kind of have to know what reality is when you have to make payroll and file all the compliance with the government and all the things you have to do to be in business to have some kind of understanding of it.
Well, and the truth is, the fact of the matter is, the president has never run a small business himself, and he does not know. And I think he's very naive to that fact, and he's surrounded himself by a lot of people with the same ideas, the same thinking that he has, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it really is, because we do need help. There are so many areas that we could benefit from. I mean, it just like in the area, for example, of government contracting. Here we have this $787 billion stimulus package, much of which is going to be contracting opportunities for businesses. And yet, small business, contracting is difficult. It's not an easy process. The SBA is supposed to be helping small business in the procurement process, but it doesn't necessarily work that way.
Well, it's very tough for a lot of small businesses. We're trying to open that up. I've been working on that for some time too, but they write the rules in such a way that large businesses have all the advantages. And even though they are required, or they're supposed to use a certain amount of small businesses for procurement or for services or for whatever the case may be, it doesn't work out that way in many cases. And, it's frustrating. I know a lot of small businesses have tried. They've invested a lot of time and a lot of resources in trying to get some government contracts, but, it's very tough.
So what, in terms of concrete solutions to some of these issues, is any kind of legislation been forthcoming, let's say, in just helping small business with government contracting or with tort reform? Anything currently pending that might have a chance of going through?
Under tort reform, there's probably not much chance at all as long as Nancy Pelosi is Speaker of the House. She's not going to allow any tort reform legislation to make its way through the House of Representatives, and that's unfortunate because we have made some gains, a lot of gains in the past, and but she's just very much against tort reform. It's taking care of those groups that have supported her. In terms of trying to make it easier on small businesses to be able to participate in getting those government contracts. That's one of the things that we are looking at in the Small Business Committee, and I think we stand a better chance there of trying to get something done in that arena than we do on tort reform.
Well, we'll be following that because I think it's so important, and small business deserves the opportunity to participate in government contracting. I think we can do a great job if we're given the chance, and we just need a little bit of help there.
Absolutely.
Another issue I know that you're looking at, and it's certainly on the front burner these days, is health care and affordable health care. And I know this is a real challenge for small business. Over the years, fewer and fewer small business owners have been able to pay for their employees' health coverage, and we need help in this area. What's going on here?
Well, one of the things that I'm working on, and on the committee we're working on, is to create buy-in pools. It's a little bit of a different take on the associated health plan concept.
Which you can never get through.
That's right, and was a great idea. And so we're kind of doing it a little bit different, but simply allowing small businesses to be able to group together and purchase their health insurance makes a lot of sense to me. If you take one small business with 10 employees, it's pretty hard for them to be able to provide that health insurance for those employees. But if you take 100 small businesses with 10 employees, your buying power just got really strong, and it's going to have a major effect on those premiums, and you're going to be able to provide. You're going to see a lot of those small businesses in a position to be able to provide that health insurance. As it is now, a lot of small businesses are having to drop that that benefit because they simply can't afford it. They simply can't afford it. And so I'm a big believer in being able to allow businesses to do that and group together, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, it sure does to me, too. I'm just concerned about sort of the whole overall health care issue where we may have a choice taken away from us and government programs dictated to us. What do you see? Is it possible that your association health plan program could go through while we're still debating the other issues? Well,
and that's a good question. There's proposals out there right now in which President Obama supports to make it a government-run healthcare system, which is something that scares me a great deal. And why we would ever want to place the government in charge of our health care and be making the decisions on whether or not you're healthy enough or young enough or whatever the case may be to have whatever health care procedure done is beyond me. Having somebody in Washington make that decision is ridiculous. And all you have to do is look at the track record that the federal government has. Look at the way they run Medicare. Look at the way they run Medicaid. Look at the way they run the Veterans Health Program. Why on earth would we put them in charge of the whole thing?
You're so right. I don't want the government running anything more. I mean, they're going to be running the auto industry and the banking industry.
Right.
I certainly don't want them to be running my health care choices at this time.
Well, and that just goes to show you the direction, that this administration and the Speaker and the Majority Leader in the Senate, that's the direction they want to take this country.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I'm as concerned as you are. Unfortunately, we're out of time. But I just want to thank you so much, Congressman Sam Graves, for joining me today. I hope that everybody will go and learn more at the website showmesmallbusiness.com, where you can find out about these programs and how you can support what Congressman Graves has said about trying to keep the size of small business down. You can also learn more at republicans.smallbiz.house.gov. These are really important issues. These are the issues that are going to impact your small business. So you really need to find out what's going on and then participate and speak up. For more about me and to sign up for my Idea of the Day and monthly e-newsletter, Big Ideas for Small Business, they're both free. Go to BarbaraWeltman.com. Next week, I'll bring you more practical information to help you build your business. Until then, good luck.